Just a little bit there. Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is John Briggs, and I am the Client Implementation Manager here at Transfinder. And I am pleased to present alongside Tony Civitello, President and CEO of Transfinder. We're going to be talking about general education and special needs environment, specific to Routefinder PLUS and to Stopfinder. Tony, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. We're excited about this new series of webinars. Happy holidays, everybody. I know it's a little bit different this year, but I'm sure all of you are going to get creative and still celebrate the holidays. That's still important, to be with families and friends and so forth. So, you know, maybe there's technology to communicate with your friends and family, but that's what we're doing right here. So again, I want to thank all of you to actually participate here today. So thank you. So John.
All right, let's get
it rolling.
Let's do it. Let's do some housekeeping first. I want to make sure everyone is familiar with how to use GoToWebinar. There is a questions panel. So throughout today's conversation with myself and Tony, you can submit questions to us. More likely than not, we will be answering them towards the end of today's presentation. We have a couple folks from Transfinder who are monitoring the questions and making sure we're able to tackle them. If we don't get to your question, we'll make sure that somebody follows up with you to get a response as well. You're also going to see a few poll questions that'll be presented a little bit later on here. So we're interested and we'd like some insight into your operation. So be on the lookout for that. And then finally, you're not going to be able to speak with us today, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean you can't communicate. I talked about the questions panel. You also have the ability to raise your hand. There's a little hand raising option in your GoToWebinar panel, so feel free to use that if you want to interact with us as well. So a lot of different options. We're excited to get started again. Gen Ed and special needs as it relates to Routefinder PLUS and Stopfinder. This is the first of a 4-part webinar. So we're going to be doing this over the next 4 months. We're pretty excited, and we'll mix it up with some presenters, but I think Tony will be here the whole time throughout. But you ready to get started?
We are ready to go. And by the way, we're trying to stay at our 6 feet so we can almost see each other here. See that? So we are near each other, and it's exciting. We're back here in the office, and it just feels just normalcy. Just I've got to get used to this, so it's exciting. All right, let's get going.
Let's do it. All right, I'm going to turn my webcam off so we can get the full focus on the screen.
Sure. Let's do that.
All right, we talked about the topic today. One of the things we want to talk about up front, though, and at the very top, is something that's been of interest to us for a while now, and you may have actually seen Tony speak on this a little bit. It's the peace plan.
It really is and of course, the peace plan is something that it just makes sense. You know, we really always talked about this this concept here of really what our products, what they do for the industry, what they do for us here at Transfinder. But the whole idea is that it gives you peace of mind, and it really, the concept is that our products really helps you create the safest bus routes and obviously these safe stops, and make sure that the kids are boarding the bus the fastest and easiest and most safest way, of course. And of course, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we do the best we could possibly do, that we ensure that all students were safe as possible. And that's really the whole concept that we're talking about as part of this peace plan. And again, peace is an acronym. I just want to reiterate that. I know, John, like you said, I've been talking about this for a few months, but peace stands for the P is for plan. Again, you guys create these great plan routes, and they're awesome. And then you have to execute the plan. So part of what happens once you have the plan, you got to make sure you roll it out. And then it's for accountability. Well, you got to hold people accountable. You do all this work, right? You plan these very safe route. You execute it, roll it out. Well, then people are doing that? You have technology to make sure that people are being accountable. And of course, we're here downtown Schenectady. I hear it's live here, right? We get the Mohawk ambulance service. Hopefully everyone's okay. It's an ambulance. All right, back to accountability. And then of course, got to communicate. And we talk about this time more than ever. It's not possible to over communicate. You got to communicate. I don't think anyone's going to say, stop, you're telling me too much. No, people want to get this information. And then part of this right here, and by the way, communication is really across the board. We think in order to really get your parents and the community engaged, you got to talk to them, and they want to feel like they're getting valuable information. So that's really important. All right, then the next part is examine. And so this is a cycle. You have to keep doing this over and over again. And this is really what our clients do. And so we came up with this graph to really represent what all of you guys do already. And so we're excited, and we're going to keep talking about this. So I think I spent a little bit too much time on this. I'm always excited about this diagram because it really paints a 360-degree picture for what you guys do on a daily basis, weekends, nights, all that, of course. All right, John, let's roll it.
Let's do it. And Tony, I can tell we're already getting some information, and people are able to hear us. We got some feedback that we can hear each other through the microphone. So we're going to be muting and going back and forth. So hopefully that's a little bit better for you. So thanks for that feedback so far, and continue to drop us comments and questions if we can make this experience better for you. Much appreciated. Tony, thanks for the piece plan. Of course, this is all about.
And I want to make sure we say this because we talk about, we want to have the way we all learn is questions. So please, let's make sure we want to get a lot of questions here. And if there's an opportunity, we could stop in the middle of our presentation in order to answer the questions. This is important. Obviously, there's a flow here, but guys, please, men and women out there, questions, please.
Absolutely. All right, we mentioned we're going to be focusing on two of our products as it relates to transportation for different student populations. The first is going to be Routefinder PLUS. It's been in the works for many years. We've been fine-tuning it, getting it ready for public release, and we're really excited that we're able to make this available to people in 2020, especially with all the nuance and all the changes to your transportation operation. Routefinder PLUS can help you adapt. As Tony mentioned, safety is going to be our biggest priority. You can't have a successful transportation operation without being able to be safe. So here's some considerations as it relates to Routefinder PLUS. You're going to create planned trips. Now, these utilize your local knowledge as well as your district policies as well. So you know your area best. We're going to give you the tools, the technology, and you're going to apply that through your Routefinder PLUS and through those planned trips. Plan with safety is your highest priority. So you're going to be able to prohibit student crossing and restrict travel on dangerous roads as well. There are a lot of different areas and a lot of different ways that you can make sure that students, a particular block, or even for a particular type of trip, that area is safe to travel on. And then finally, we incorporate the most up-to-date student information. So we know, especially in 2020, with your changes on a regular basis. A student starts as virtual on Monday and then the parents decide that they're not staying virtual and they're going back to school on Tuesday or Wednesday. We want to make sure that if your student information system has been updated with that information, that you get that information in your Routefinder PLUS. So we incorporate nightly imports. We also have the ability to export information from Routefinder PLUS and bring it into a parent portal if you're utilizing that. So Routefinder PLUS, a lot of different things going on here.
Of course, you'll always hear us talk about baking in your local knowledge, and it's something that we've been talking about this now for almost a year with this product, that your local knowledge really drives our routing software. So there's tons of great optimizations, all that really brand new technology that's really nice. But remember, we bake in, and really you do the baking. You bake in all that local knowledge. That way the product could give you even better results.
Thank you, Tony. All right, I want to present you with an example of a special needs trip. This may look very similar to what you've been dealing with if you are directly using one of our software solutions. So here is Routefinder PLUS. you can see that special needs trips, oftentimes it's just a handful of students, but they can cover a large swath of land. So we have Schenectady here in upstate New York, greetings from upstate New York, and we have students all over the county. One of the great things though is that if you do have changes to your trips, so if you do have a student who needs to be added to a trip or a student who needs to be removed from the trip, we've incorporated into Routefinder Plus some tools where we do the math for you. We help you to figure out what's the best route to take now that we've added in a student or we've taken out a stop. What's the most direct path? So that math can be done for you, and it's pretty great and pretty intuitive. We've gotten a lot of great feedback so far from our clients on this. Tony, anything you want to add on the special needs and smart sequence?
Well, I got to keep remembering to unmute myself. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, everybody. So the smart sequence really lets you, when you have a new kid come into your district or they're moving, let the system do the thinking for you. And the whole concept of smart sequence, the system will determine the best place in the sequence of your stops to put the stop. But remember, part of the whole baking process is that it's going to know that when you're doing this, it has to respect the curb approach. All those things have to be in there. So, technology is great, but sometimes technology does too much for you in a way that you can't control what it's doing. And that's something that we want to make sure we avoid that. So part of our Routefinder Plus methodology and really philosophy is that you have the full control. Even though you have this massive amount of power, you have full control. We were just talking about a Tesla just a few minutes ago on how really technology and Tesla, really these smart driving cars have changed everything. Remember, you could put the autopilot in that car, but you could also just grab the wheel. The wheel is right there. So you still have control. Yes, you have that autopilot button, but you have the hands on the wheel. So just keep that in mind. Cool.
All right, the idea of baking will come back into our presentation, I'm sure. Let's keep going though. So one of the things that is a common occurrence through the 30 plus years of being a company with Transfinder is we're constantly in communication with our clients. How are you using the system? Is there something that we haven't thought of yet? Are you using the system in a unique way, or where can we improve our processes? And so we've incorporated so many of those improvements into Routefinder Plus, one of them being tied to special needs and one of them being tied specifically to door-to-door stops. So if a student can't get to a corner and needs to be picked up at the end of the driveway or right outside their door, we've made the process of creating a door-to-door stop much, much simpler. You see a blue dot, and blue dots are our lifeblood there. Those are the unassigned students. If you see a blue dot on your map and you want to create a door-to-door stop, simply put, it is a right click, and you can see that icon right there where it says create door-to-door stop, and that's all you need to do. It's automatically placed for you, and the boundary is automatically created for you as well. So we've simplified and really minimized the steps for creating door-to-door stops.
One of my favorite features that we've shown this to so many of our clients. When you have a bunch of students and they're all over the district, you can literally just lasso them and we'll call them roping, and just create an area, and then it creates all door to door very fast. Again, we have so much now in our system about optimization. You can really create door to door stops for these kids. You got 200-300 of them, and then all of a sudden, obviously, there's no way you're gonna have ever a single trip that could transport 300-400 kids, but it's within seconds. Then let the system optimize. In other words, say, hey, I have all these buses, and now you have 200-300 kids. So they're all door to door, and now the system's going to create as many trips as possible based on your parameter. But you couldn't do this. I just want to make sure I keep reminding everyone this technology, it couldn't be possible until you really put a lot of that information in the system. And again, I don't want you to think that, wow, you mean I can't just start the car and start driving? Yes, you can. But in order to start taking advantage of some of the smart stuff, it needs to learn from you. And some of you is gonna take, a couple months. Some of you will be able to do it the day you get the product, and some of you are doing that, and some may not do it for years. And this is really the flexibility of our product. I just want to just keep emphasizing that.
Thank you, Tony. There's going to be a lot of things that weren't possible just a year or two ago that have been incorporated into PLUS, and we'll keep talking about them and keep incorporating, keep getting better. This is a continuation of the door-to-door stop that I just created, again, with that single right click on that blue dot. We've talked about safety and harped on safety because it is so important. We want to make sure that the students are safely getting on and getting off the bus. So when you place that door-to-door stop, you have a lot of different options that you can update and customize to really make this your own. The first one being the total stop time. Now, one of the things you can do here is manually adjust a stop time. If you know that there's specific circumstances, maybe based on the location or based on the neighborhood that this stop is at, based on the time of day that the stop is occurring, maybe there's a lot of traffic with people going to or from work, you can update that total stop time. We're going to talk a little bit more about total stop time coming up. Just wanted to make sure I mentioned it right now. Also, vehicle curb approach. If we don't want students crossing the street, we can indicate for this particular stop that we want this to be a right side pickup, so the student can safely get on and get off. And finally, we can prohibit street crossing at the stop level. So we can make sure if this is a busy intersection, if there aren't sidewalks, if it's low visibility, we'll prohibit street crossing to make sure our student population is as safe as possible. Picking up and dropping off. We talked about the stops where you can prohibit street crossing. We've added on in Routefinder PLUS. So if you used Pro before or any other system, maybe it was just the stop where you could say, I want to prohibit street crossing, but now you can actually go into a student's record and indicate that you want to prohibit street crossing, which I think is really great. So no matter what trip, no matter what stop that they're associated with, the system will always remember it. I think, Tony, you say set it and forget it. This is one of those areas where that truly does come into play.
And load time is such a big deal. We talked about really these systems when you want to take advantage of this automation. Well, automation sometimes get you in trouble, right? But load time is so crucial for getting accurate stop times. And when you're telling, we're getting part of that communication, when you communicate with the parents saying, hey, we're going to be picking up your son or daughter at 7:45 plus or minus 10 minutes, they'll be okay with plus or minus 10 minutes, but man, you need to be right on, and you have to stay within that window of being okay. So this is part of we will let you really calculate. The system will automatically calculate the load time. It's really based on many variables, and this is one of the example that a wheelchair student could take up to 5 minutes to load. But you could have so many different combination permutations that, again, accurate stop time is so important. And then we got to remind everybody, remember our system, even though it has all this estimation in there, you can still say, it's not 7:45, it's 7:35, and please set it and forget it. So yes, cool.
And as Tony just mentioned, we talked just a moment ago about manually updating a stop time. Well, we don't want you to always have to remember, oh, this is that stop where I need to add on the 5 minutes, or this is the stop where I need to add on the 3 minutes. If you utilize what we call disability codes, and you can see an example of it right here, a student that utilizes a wheelchair. So if you assign a disability code to those students and you associate an additional load time with that code, any stop that student is assigned to is going to be added on to the stop time. So we have the 300 seconds here. That means 5 minutes is automatically added on for any stop and any trip that this student is associated with. So again, tied right back to that set it and forget it mentality. Another great idea that's come from a lot of our clients, they tell us, and this is more tied to the special needs students population or for the younger kids too, they say, we don't have just one pickup and drop-off location at our school. We have multiple pickup and drop-offs. Again, it could be for different populations. It could be based on the time of day. Sometimes it makes sense to pick up and drop the students right out front, but other times if traffic is backed up, we don't want to impede traffic anymore, so we go back around the school. So in this screenshot, you can see an example where we have our primary pickup and drop-off location, which is represented with that pink icon. But then we have a secondary pickup and drop-off location, which facilitates our special needs pickup and drop-off. Maybe we have a ramp that brings us into the school, and that's why we need to use that location. So we allow you, when you create a trip, to say, here specifically on the campus is where we do pickups and where we do drop-offs. So pretty handy there.
Those things are so important with the school locations. We've heard this for so many years, and there are so many use cases now that we have this feature. I tell you, it's more and more used. I feel like almost every client used this. Probably we've heard this for years, and our list of feature requests, we keep getting them. And of course, we get feature requests not just from our clients, which thank you all of you that you're on this session today, and you guys have been great help, and please keep coming. You keep giving us, but we also get a lot of feature requests even from our service team. The service team that works with our clients really say, hey, if we add this feature, it will just be a lot easier and make it easier for our clients. And then of course, when we're doing tons of new presentation to some of you that are on here that maybe you have another system, and hopefully not for long, but you get our system, but you also give us a lot of ideas, and you give us some of the pains that that you like to get solved, and those are things that we love. That, and this is something that after 32 years, how does a technology company stay fresh? It's from that, and we really owe it to all of you on this session here today, and of course everyone else that it's not to that's not on here also, because that's where we grow. We get tons of feedback and feature requests, but I tell you, the school location was just a big slam dunk for us, for sure.
Absolutely. And we got a couple questions. I think I can hit them real quick. Thomas asked, does that change the mileage from the school to the student's home? Yeah, it's going to be representative of the particular pickup or drop-off location that you select. Crystal, hey, greetings out there in California. Had the opportunity to visit you a couple years back and your team. Will these options also work for the general education routes? They absolutely will. So we just wanted to make sure we brought up special needs because that's where we see it most often, but wanted to make sure we did that.
It's a great question. The reason why we're emphasizing special needs is because those are the hardest trips to manage. And we always say, if you could really do a good job managing those type of trips, everything else is downhill. It's much easier. So that was a good question. Clearly, this new product is great for regular, the general ed, special needs, of course. But I also want to make sure that we emphasize that this product really was designed for the compact size school district to the very, very large school districts too. So great question. Obviously, we're emphasizing on the toughest, the hardest routes that everyone has to manage, but clearly you manage special needs trips. You could do the general ed with your both hands tied behind your back. Is it possible? Like to hear that. So if someone has figured that one out, maybe with your nose you could type, or use your mouse with your chin. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Perfect. And we're getting some more questions coming through. I want to make sure that we get through all of this, so we'll come back and revisit these questions, but let's keep plugging along here. Thanks for the interactivity so far. All right, yet again, another feature and another great addition to Routefinder PLUS. We have the ability to add as many fields for tracking purposes as we need to. And when I say fields, I mean really anything that you can imagine. If there are 50 different dates that you want to track for your staff members, you can add all of those as a user-defined field within Routefinder PLUS. Same thing with students, same things with trips, same things with alternate sites. So there's a lot that you can do here. And one of the limitations that we've heard from clients in the past is there weren't enough fields to utilize. Well, we've given you unlimited fields now to utilize, and I think that's really great.
On that note, for clients that are on this session, we obviously have two environments, as you guys know. If you're new to Plus, we put you on a sandbox environment, and then from the sandbox environment, which that's where you learn and so forth, and then we obviously put you in production. Well, this past weekend, we updated everyone that's in the sandbox environment to a brand new functionality, and it's awesome. It's using this concept, but it's called groups. In other words, you could really have unlimited groups now. For all of you guys who always want to track student referrals, well, guess what? It's now part of the system. You ever want to track driver training and so forth, it's all part of the system now. And by the way, driver training could just be anything. Now at this point, you create your own fields. Again, you're not going to do this on your own. You're going to do this with our team here, but it's part of Plus. And of course, for you in production, that production is going to be updated this weekend. So I am so pumped about this feature that you're going to hear a lot more about this. Cool.
Thanks, Tony. Let's keep plugging along. So we've talked about special needs, a little bit of gen ed. So let's talk a little bit more about gen ed trips. You can see an example of our routing palette within our map canvas. And so what we've done here is we made it very easy to see the stop boundaries, which are those dotted lines, and then the solid thick lines are the drive path for the vehicles as they go on and traverse here. A lot can be done through this routing palette. And again, things you've been able to do in the past, we've minimized the steps. Things you've never been able to do, you can now do within Routefinder PLUS. It all starts with the routing palette, and it all starts with the map canvas. Now, one of the things I want to talk about and mention that's really, really cool, let's talk about junction stops or intersection stops. If you are dealing with any sort of group stop, you may very well be using a location that is at an intersection. Now, we in the transportation business know that most of the time, that stop is not going to be physically located dead center in the middle of that intersection. So what we've done is we've allowed you specificity, and with specificity comes safety. So take a look on the right-hand side of this screenshot. You have the intersection broken down into different spheres. So you can indicate which particular part of the intersection that vehicle is stopping. So taking stop number 3 there at the intersection, you can see that I've selected that I want the vehicle to stop just before we reach stop 3, and we also are going to be prohibiting crossing of that street as well. So it's going to be a right side pickup, and we prohibit street crossing to make sure that this is as safe as possible.
And keep this in mind, this really we call these the corner stops. When you identify really it's the quadrant. And by the way, as you do those things, it'll put the stop information where it's this could be considered, I think, south west, perhaps, I think southwest of that intersection, but it would actually update the direction for you automatically. But what I like about this is because remember we're talking about the smart sequencing and smart routing. Once you define a stop in this way, even though some things get re-optimized and so forth, well, guess what? That stop will always be serviced that way. It'll always approach from that direction. And by the way, next few other sessions, we'll talk about an awesome product called Wayfinder, which is our navigation product that actually sits in your buses. Well, guess what? Well, again, I'm probably going to get ahead of myself, and I feel like people are kicking me underneath the table here. They can't reach, thank goodness. But when we talk about defining these stops and you have a navigation system, well, guess what? You better respect all that, because you don't want to necessarily reroute, and all of a sudden the driver goes off path, and somehow your navigation system has no idea of how you define that stop. That's a bad thing. You will not be able to do that with our system, because they will definitely always respect that. It will respect what you did with your routes, with your maps, the stops. Again, I know I'm jumping ahead, but I just want you to know how this information just carries throughout all our other apps that you guys will use on a daily basis.
I know they're going to love seeing Wayfinders. So again, mark that on your calendars. Next few months, we have a couple more sessions coming your way.
I used it today. Just come here. I actually used it today. Multiple things. I was just, as I was driving to the office, I was using it to see if I make sure I remember how to get to the office.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often these days, so we got to stay on top of things like that. So, all right, I keep harping on this, client suggestions and client interactions that inspire us and help us to input new features into our products. Here's something that comes up all the time. As I mentioned, I'm the client implementation manager. And so I'm always working with clients all across North America, all shapes, all sizes, all different sorts of district policies. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this location or this street is awesome for general education trips. We don't want this being used for special needs. Or I can tell you this particular intersection between 2 and 5 p.m., we don't want to do left-hand turns out of there. Well, we've come up with something called travel scenarios. We're allowing you to set a group of characteristics and incorporate a bunch of different settings together. So based on the kind of trip that you're creating, you get exactly the result, exactly the drive path that you want. We're going to talk about some of those features here, starting with travel regions. So these are areas on the map that are used to identify streets as preferred, restricted, or prohibited. So we can see we have green, yellow, and red. Green means go. Green means if at all possible, let's use this street. Maybe we know that it's got a lot of space on the left and the right. Maybe we know that it's not heavily traversed at that time of day or traveled on that time of day. We have yellow and red as well. So what yellow means is, if possible, let's try and avoid this street. Maybe we know it's highly congested. But if that's the only option and it's yellow, we still will use that. Finally, prohibited or red, this means avoid at all costs. Now, you could have the same street for an AM travel scenario that's avoid at all costs. That could be preferred or green for an afternoon or a PM travel scenario. You're really going to be able to make this and customize this to get exactly what you want using your local knowledge. So that's a little bit of insight into travel regions. On top of that, let's talk about curb approach. So editing the street curb approach changes the direction that vehicles will travel down a given street. Very similar to what we've been talking about over the last few minutes. And we're using colors again. So if something is restricted or yellow, we want to avoid traveling on this street in this direction. Again, if this is our only option, we will use it, but we're trying to avoid it if possible. And prohibited red means let's never do this. Let's never travel on the street in this direction. Again, this can vary depending on the travel scenario that you're working with, but this is something that can be customized and really make it your own.
And go back to where rerouting, of course, or the driver's driving and somehow they go off path and then a system is trying to help them get back on path. Remember, there's certain roads that you know. Again, this is part of the local knowledge that you have to bake in. You know that certain roads traveling in a certain direction, eastbound on that road in the morning is nuts. If you just go a couple roads over, it's smooth sailing. So that's where you put this local knowledge. Not that you don't know how to route, but if you wanted the system to automatically route in the morning, well, guess what? Don't even suggest to take that road. And that's really the thing that would frustrate me, that come on. In 2020, I have to keep telling not to go on Route 7, going eastbound. This is crazy. This is the thing that you set it and forget it. In the morning, I don't want the system to prefer, again, like John just said, if I have to, go for it. But otherwise, try to avoid it. And that's the type of things we're talking about baking. And again, you don't have to use this, but if you keep seeing yourself that you have to keep adjusting the path, and again, we have some easy way now to adjust the path, much easier than ever. But why keep doing that work over and over again if you just say, I don't want to do this in the morning, but in the afternoon, perhaps it's the opposite. Now it's westbound. So you guys know what I'm talking about.
All right, we're going to keep going. There's a third element to travel scenarios, which would be maneuvers. And these are specific to intersections or junctions. So if you see an arrow that is white here, that means that there's no preference. You can turn at any time in that travel scenario. Restricted or yellow means avoid if at all possible. But if this is our only option, we're going to use it. And then finally, prohibited means no matter what's going on, I don't want to make this turn. Again, I gave the example at the very beginning of talking about travel scenarios. If you're leaving a school driveway and a left-hand turn, sometimes that works and other times it doesn't. So you can set it up and have multiple travel scenarios that incorporate times and incorporate instances when you can make that left-hand turn and when you can't make that left-hand turn. All right, so we're about to jump into our Stopfinder product, and before we do it, I alluded to the fact we have a couple poll questions that we have ready to go. Bridget, are you with us, ready to get those poll questions out?
Yes, I'll pull out the first poll question now. And this is, are you planning to implement GPS on your fleet?
All right, so the poll is now open. So again, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to answer that question for us, and we'll give you a moment to collect yourselves, and one more question after this as well.
And keep them in mind, we're really asking you about GPS because as we put more automation in our system, we really want to see where you are with GPS. Of course, GPS things are changing so fast, especially now with the 5G that just is rolling out. So some of the GPS devices some of our clients have, they might have to think about maybe replacing them if you've had them for 5-6 years and so forth. But we just want to get a sense of, as we talk about GPS, I think it's one of a must-have. I think the majority of you guys already have it, but clearly, we're not asking that, like, is it older technology or not, but it's just cool to have. So let's just give them another 20 seconds or so. Again, it's either you have it, and if you don't, what are you thinking about? I don't know anyone could say, I don't believe I need GPS, but I'm curious to see that.
All right. We appreciate everyone answering that first question here. We got a lot of good interactivity. Bridget, do you want to roll with that second question? Oh, we could actually, if you're interested, yeah, it makes sense to actually talk about the answer, what people are saying. So about 2/3 of people were indicating that they already utilized GPS providers. And so about 2/3 of the people within our session here were using that.
Cool.
And Bridget, I see the second question and polls rolled out. Are you planning to implement Stopfinder?
Again, this is part of our parent app. It's called Stopfinder. So do you already own our product? Do you have something else? And really, what do you plan on? How do you plan on communicating with parents out there? So that's important. This is a commitment. We tell our clients, as you move this direction, it's a commitment of, because once you start have this faucet turned on, parents love it and they want to continue seeing that. So I think a lot of our clients are considering going this direction. So maybe we could show the results.
There we go. So we can see 16% of us already have Stopfinder, 30% using another app, and then a whole bunch of us that are planning within the next 6, 12, or 24 months to roll out a parent app. Pretty great. Again, thank you for the interactivity.
And I noticed about 1/3 of you actually already own something, which is if you're our client, we probably, before we had this about over a year ago, we helped you find a company that would work great with our technology. So a lot of you I know bought a product that worked well with our routing system. Now that we have our own system, again, continue using that one. If it's working, continue using it. If you don't have anything, we will look for you to look at our system first. But the advantage of our software is that how the data, there's no data back and forth, it's live. And I think you'll hear a lot more about the benefit of just having we call it the all-in-one. It's one solution. Data is just coming from one company. There's no back and forth integration. And so I think we're going to be doing a lot of educating to our clients, of course. But cool. Let's move on.
Let's do it. We've been talking about parent apps. We've been talking about making sure that we have the information available at the parent and guardian level. So let's talk a little bit about Stopfinder and what goes on here. You can see a screenshot here of a push notification, which is pretty handy and pretty cool. So we're actually going to come back to this in a few slides here with the special announcement, the bridge is out. So you can curate a list of parents and guardians who need to get this message, and then you can send it out instantaneously. But that's not just the only thing that's associated with Stopfinder. So here are some of the considerations. It is a parent app that's used to track student bus assignments. You have customizable geo alerts that will notify users when the bus is in range. So find that bus, we're able to do that. And then finally, announcements can be sent to specific groups of parents and guardians, and we'll show you an example in just a moment here. So let's talk a little bit more about Stopfinder. We want to show you how easy and how intuitive it is to actually get started with using this if you're a parent. So if your district is using Stopfinder and a parent signs up here, they can simply log into their app. They'll see the student's trip, and they get to decide where the geo alert is located. So when do they want that notification coming through that the bus is in range? So you can see in the middle section here, we have the ability to move this alert anywhere we want it to be. And right there, we have it at a major intersection. You can also have it right around where the stop is located as well. It's all about that local knowledge. And again, the parents are going to be using it and providing their preference here on when they want that notification.
John, I see some questions specifically on this parent app. Some of you are saying, hey, I own it already, but why don't I see this information? Well, there's multiple versions of this. There's one that's just called communication only. Maybe you don't have this geo alert, or maybe it's not turned on. So multiple reasons. Great question about, so parents could see the actual path of the bus. Wonderful question. You choose that. You have the luxury of choosing. By the way, notice that screen to the both screens, really the screenshots of the app, both have the stop, the kids stop and their home location. Again, there's a lot of advantage of having that where they live, because that way parents can say, I don't live there, or I live across the street. Really important. But you get to choose, do you really want to show the other stops too? You know, it looks great for presentation, but maybe not practical for you when you roll it out to show additional information such as other stops. The blue path, which represents the planned path of the bus, I'm on the fence on that one, because if you don't show it, they could literally figure out by just watching the bus the entire time. So you're not really giving away the secret of the house by showing the planned path. It's a preference. You could clearly, by one check, say don't show it, and it will not show. But again, I'm just the way I think. So cool. Someone bought it and it's not implemented yet, and it's available. So obviously, you want to be able. Someone is Suzanne. We'll make sure someone contacts you about making sure we get this thing implemented. If you bought it already, let's make sure we roll it out to parents and so forth. And yes, parents can watch the bus live. That's a fact. Again, this is something you choose. I think there's value to that. Parents are used to seeing their Panera Bread delivery, seeing their driver live, and we want to make sure that their the precious cargo is being watched live too. All right, cool.
All right, let's keep going. So we saw what it looks like to get started from the parent's perspective here. So we can see that a geo alert is being placed right around the house. Now, one of the things we'll talk about too is that when it comes to geo alerts, size does matter, meaning that you have the ability to really make this a wide area. So anytime the bus is coming in or out of that area, you can be notified. Or if you wanted to have a smaller area and get that notification at that specific time, you can do that as well. So we give you customization options for that geo alert here too.
And I think when you experiment with, obviously the parents are going to be doing this, when they'll probably want multiple locations. It's almost like when you have an important meeting and you got to get up early and you got to get onto a plane. No, I don't know about you, but I set multiple alarms. I want to make sure that just in case I sleep through the first alarm, I set a second one and maybe a third one. And that's really the whole idea, is that parents could literally set themselves up for their kids. And by the way, there's no reason why the students, older students that have a smartphone could also use this too. So multiple, in other words, and identifiers such as, get alert when I'm down the street, by the gas station, by a Dunkin' Donuts shop. Now at this point, you have a sense of, I know where they are. Let's get going. So that's the type of things that make sense to do.
Perfect. And you can see the different size options here. So the middle, you have just a smaller GeoAlert, and then you have a much bigger one. You can go up to 1,500 square feet for circumference. So a lot of customization options with this. And again, as Tony mentioned, you can have multiple areas on your map here too. All right, I promised you all that we would get back to that bridge is out example. So I wanted to show you within Stopfinder. So you as a district or you as a contractor, if you're looking at the Stopfinder admin page, you can lasso, as Tony mentioned a little bit earlier on, or group up parents that are affected by a bridge or a road being out. So you can see that lovely Mohawk River going right through our map here. You have the ability to lasso. So anyone north of the Mohawk River can be selected. These are going to be the students and the families that are affected by this bridge being out. We want to let them know about this here too. So we select them, and you can see now on the left-hand side, the list that's showing, it says 669 out of 4,438. So there are 669 students that are affected by this. And the list you're looking at is just those students, just those families. So from here now, what you can do is you can select or highlight all of these student records, and you can say, I want to send a new announcement out. I want to make sure that all the parents and guardians know exactly what's going on with this bridge. So we choose the new announcement, and here you can see how that's created. You have the number of recipients that are already created there because of your list that you selected. You have the name, and you have the announcement there at the bottom. And we saw the example at the very beginning when we started talking about Stopfinder. This can come through as a push notification, so automatically shows up on that mobile device that the parent is using.
Listen, these push notifications, this is an example of lassoing the bridges out, but this could be on anything. You could send a notification, and by the way, they could be scheduled. You could have a notification to be scheduled on, maybe once a week. You remind them, say, hey, we have made massive changes. Please update, go into the app. But really, this could be one of the examples I've seen that it happens a lot of time. And by the way, I see some questions coming through that what happens if you have a vehicle substitution. Very good. Vehicle substitution is crucial, and we've given you several ways. We even give ways for the driver to actually substitute the vehicle themselves. So there's few ways you can do vehicle substitution, because if a parent is tracking bus 12 and bus 12 somehow didn't start this morning and it's still, it's in the garage, but bus 22 goes out there, well, they shouldn't have to worry about that. It's bus 22 now doing their route. That just happens in the back end, and you'll do this. But again, this announcement, I just want to let you know, there's so many use cases for announcements, and you got to just use the announcement wisely. If you send out, I don't know about you guys, if some of you have, like I have ESPN, and I get like these alerts like nonstop from ESPN, just all the different things, especially when the draft was going on. So those are cool things to have, but sometimes it could be annoying. But there's a good amount of announcement that makes sense for you and to communicate with your parents. Cool. All right, we got some more to do.
Let's do it. All right, the last thing we're going to mention as it relates to Stopfinder would be feedback. So feedback, this is where parents can submit updates and receive responses on student transportation inquiries. Again, you have the ability to turn this on or turn this off if you want it to be used. On the right-hand side, you can see an example of what it looks like for a parent to submit some feedback and to submit to the district information on their students' transportation. From a parent's perspective, it's pretty easy to do this. When they log into the app, all they need to do is tap on the stoppy icon, our friendly little stop sign, and that gives you the ability to send a message. From the Stopfinder admin site, staff can review recent messages and then subsequently send responses. So here's what it looks like through the admin site. So that same message that you saw through the app is now being seen through the operation or through the district's eyes here as well. All right, we've talked about Plus, we've talked about Stopfinder. We wanted to make sure we had some time for additional questions at the end here. We want to say thank you so much for making us a part of your day and spending some time with us. We want to make sure that people are as informed as possible on what's going on and the different options they have through Transfinder and through any other entity as well. So again, thank you so much for your time.
I want to also thank everyone today for spending valuable time here. And of course, here at the staff here at Transfinder, I want to always thank them for the amount of effort they do on a daily basis. These men and women here at Transfinder are all here for you. Literally, I get emails from the staff late at night. It's just been one of those years that I don't know if I want to ever live through this again. But just to think that, just to know that we had the industry, and from Transfinder employees to the staff, to really to all you out there, just such a dedicated group. So I want to just say thank you. I'm not sure if we'll connect before the holidays. I just want to tell everyone how I'm pleased to have all of you as part of our family. Happy holidays. And let's get some questions here. We have tons of questions. I was taking some notes, and there were a couple things I want to just get to right from the Stopfinder things, and I feel like I just want to. I was on a roll right there with that, and obviously I think you guys know the driver. If there's a spare bus, it's not just a spare bus; it's also for the driver. All those things are the resource. You want to be able to substitute those, so that's important. Another one I want to get to is really when we talked about the different mileages for the students. So changing the entrance of the mileage. By the way, it doesn't. When you change the different location, the student mileage does not change. It's always at the school location. The pickup and the drop-off location at the school stop does not affect student mileages. On that note, someone says it'd be nice to see the path from the kid's house to the school. Yes, and it's coming. That's been really a big request. And by the way, that's not a driving path. That's a walking path. So a kid could walk the opposite way on one-way street. So you'll see that. It's kind of cool. It's been a request for a long time. It's like, yeah, you show me a number, but how did you calculate that? Because remember, parents will challenge you like, oh, I don't know. They say they live 2.1 miles and you cut off as 2. And, maybe they drove, they can't drive the same way a kid can drive, could walk. They can't go the opposite one-way street and so forth. So keep that in mind. So what else you got? We have other questions?
Yeah, so we have some questions here, Tony. I'll let you tackle these. We're starting with D right here.
I am muted. I was muted. By the way, it says hopefully it's not a dumb question. No such thing. So no such thing. That's how I was a little kid. I asked tons of questions. I think my parents were just so tired of me questions, but they kept giving me the answer. So is there a limit to the number of buses? There's no limit. You know why? Because there's no limit how many these are subscribers or parents. They can see as many kids they need to see. And some parents have multiple kids. They're all going to be in Stopfinder. So there really is no limit at all. What else we got here? Is there a limit of go back to pickup and drop off points? There's unlimited pickup and drop off at campuses. I'm skipping all over the place. I'm sorry, I'm not as organized just as they're coming through here. I'm able to import staff that you're currently tracking in Excel. Import data integration, we really took Plus to a whole nother level. You could bring in any data you want, and there's so much flexibility there. Remember when John talked about additional user-defined fields, that if you have some data that maybe we don't have a field for it, we'll create some extra field. That way, everything comes in. So the really import is gone off the chart. What else we got here? I got some more things here. Hey, this is a good one right here. You got some of you have are questioning, what's up with this Transfinder CARES Act? Wow, that's a good one. Good question. Yes, it's still available. So what CARES Act lets you do is to really, it's a payment plan. Lets you have a minimal commitment financially now, and then we make payment plans. And we know that budgets are being slashed. We don't know what's going to happen in 21. We don't know this. So what we did is the Transfinder CARES Act lets you just really get started with our technology, a small commitment up front, and then we make some payment plans. That's really what it is. It's available. Please ask your representative. I don't mean the House representatives. I'm sure they could also help too. They could use some, we all could use some CARES Act, and we should be going there. I get it. Let's not go there. So someone has Routefinder Pro. Is there an upgrade? Yes, we've been upgrading people and nonstop with that. I think we're right now, John, would you say at least 10% of our clients are now moved to that platform so far?
Yeah, we have a lot of people who are already moved on to that or in the process of getting started with Plus. So yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment.
And of course, is there training for Plus? Tons of training. We got a new site for our clients. It's Community, it's called. So we're moving a lot of our clients from My Transfinder to Community, and there's so much content there. It's really, we've actually created new positions here at Transfinder. Just to let you know, we've added tons of service people just from springtime. 25. I actually lost track. I think the last number I've seen that we've added over 30 employees since we all went home. The most important aspect of adding is really service, but training, documentation, there was so much of that. So move on to another one. Rhonda asked, can you manually alter the driving directions? Oh yeah, you could do a lot of different things in there. So you could alter the driving directions. Remember, the driving directions is a way that, again, I don't understand the question specifically. I'm going to give you two answers. If it's just a path, definitely could change a path. If it's the words left and right, you definitely could change that too. So how do you lock that in? Well, you lock that in a way that, remember we talked about the priorities and the preferences that John talked about? That's more the advanced. That way, once you say, I don't want to take that left-hand turn, well, you don't want to keep saying it every time you make some changes. Let's do that set and forget it. That way, that left-hand turn is prohibited. So I hope that answered your question. How is Stopfinder different from other parent apps? Wow. Man, that's a good question. Number one thing that I always say, again, there's other great products out there, and we're going to say they're good. We're not going to say, a lot of them we actually helped you get. But the most important thing I just want to just keep emphasizing, Stopfinder reads Plus data live. There's no data. You're not exporting data back and forth. It's live. That is the most important piece. The other big part is the functionality. We're adding tons of functionality. It's not just find a bus. It's communicating with parents. And by the way, you'll hear some new thing coming up about questionnaire. It's forms. It's coming. I'm jumping the gun, I know, but there's just really Stopfinder it's a true parent app. There's other products out there. They're called parent apps, but they're really tracking the bus, and if they're good, but we need a lot more than just that. What else?
Yeah.
Oh, someone asked about, does Stopfinder work with other routing programs? Right now, it doesn't. So Stopfinder is really the only product that works with Routefinder PLUS. So Plus, so you could, if you love Stopfinder, you will love Plus, of course. What else we got? I'm sure we have more questions.
We do. Carol is asking some specific questions on imports as it relates to calendar-based routing. Carol, I'll need a little bit more detail on that, but we can certainly get back to you with a response on that particular question. Jennifer, the parent notifications come to who exactly? Sometimes the router will not be available to check the information. Absolutely. It's whomever you designate as the person to review those messages. So it can be anyone that you want reviewing those feedback messages, again, if you decide to turn that on. Raj asks, what mapping system gets used? Google Maps. Tony, I think I'll let you take this one.
So where's the question? Well, mapping system does it use? Perfect question. We use ESRI. It's Esri. It's really the biggest in the world, and we really have taken that technology and changed everything about routing and mapping. So we're excited about that. Again, we switched technology a couple years ago, and Plus is 100% Esri. Again, you guys, they make maps, but the routing is really the biggest piece that we're leveraging from that company. I do want to make sure we know, I think it is noon. It's 12 o'clock here at Eastern time. And I know that we like to really be on time here. So I just want to let everybody know it is noon. We're going to continue answering questions. If you guys want to still stay on, of course, we have no problem with that. But I just want to know that it is noon, and please stay tuned for our next webinar. It's going to be in January 21. Finally, we're going to get rid of 2020. Farewell to 2020. We'll get 21 coming up. So stay tuned for that. But we'll continue answering some more questions if you guys want to stay on board here. What else we got?
So we have Bill who's asking, on some of our runs, we have multiple monitors. Do you plan on opening up more spots to add the monitors to trip? So I know currently in the system, it's just assigning a single resource here. If we're not planning on it, I think at the very least, we can make our development team aware that this is something that is affecting clients.
Multiple monitors, a great idea. Right now, we only have one monitor. When a short-term fix you could have is create additional monitors as more like a user-defined field on a trip, and then you could just you could make it a list that you could have more than one item and so forth. So you could do that right now. That at least it could show up on a route sheet. But I'm guessing you're asking that way it could affect the calendar and the schedule. So yes, we need multiple monitors. That way it affects the calendar. But if you want it for the route sheet, let's put that as a user-defined field, and done, done, and done.
Absolutely. Suzanne, I see you. So has some questions on the import with Excel. We're definitely going to follow up with you and make sure you have all that information. So thanks for letting us know about that. Frank asks, can route data be exported to different formats and does it have to coordinate system embedded?
I think what it means when you're exporting routing data, it has to be the coordinates, right? The XY coordinates. That is key. Yes. We use normal latitude, longitude coordinates, so therefore you should be able to get all that data there every stop. It's, by the way, it's not our data, it's your data. If you have our software, it's your data and everything. We didn't lock anything down. It's your data. Privacy purposes, of course, we lock that down. But if you need to get something out into something else, especially some people were used to go like Google Earth and KMLs, whatever you need, it's in there. So I think KML are in there right now, are they? And I know Pro used to have it. Well, KML is not in there right now, but there's things you can export out so you could see it in other systems.
All right. Kathy asks about the monitor aid printing on the field trip sheets, as Tony mentioned. Yes, we can do that. And that looks like we've got most of the questions handled so far. So I'll say let's do a last call. Any other questions for us on Plus, on Stopfinder, on operations as a whole?
And thank you for the shout out to everybody, all of you saying thank you and happy holidays. Thank you to all of you. Thank you for being loyal clients and always taking our calls. And remember, we'll always take your calls. So we always want to hear the good, the bad, and ugly. And the good is always great to hear. So thank you for that. And obviously, we all we were in it together here this past several months. It's almost a year at this point. So thank you to all of you and happy holidays.
Yes, absolutely. Happy holidays. Thank you, everybody. Again, we're going to see you January 2021 with the second installment of our 4-part webinar. Be safe, stay warm, and we'll see you soon.